Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to my first attempt at a new version of my podcast, Old School New Tech. I should probably preface this by saying that I started this podcast about a year ago, and I've been away for a year, kind of with my head down, developing and building stuff, which I'll get to in a bit. But I kind of neglected the podcast idea, mainly because of a few reasons. I would say that one, I found the production effort way too much for what I was wanting to do, which is just share my thoughts and thinking process. And another thing was that it kind of felt kind of silly talking to myself. So with this new version, what I ended up doing is basically, and this is an attempt to solve both main issues that I had with the previous version of the podcast. One of them being the cadence and the production. Hence, I'm gonna do it live. You're welcome to join me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions after or during the podcast. So this is a live event, essentially. So that solves the production efforts. No production, no editing. It is what it is. And the second thing, which is the talking to myself part, I solved it by introducing a co-host that will join me in just a minute or two. But yeah, I've been heads down with building several things. I wrote a book, and I have this behemoth right here. So I wrote this thing, Production Grade Agentic AI, which you are more than welcome to download for free on productionaibook.com. And I worked on MUXI, which is agent infrastructure for production use. So it's a server for AI agents, still not fully public in terms of me marketing it or anything like that. So it's more of an internal, semi-internal project at this stage. And I was working on Cloop, which is an autonomous engineering control plane, which I plan to introduce into Automaze, which is what took most of my focus, which is the software agency that I run. So that's why I've been so busy, and that's why I'm just now kind of surfacing back up from a somewhat dormant email list and a neglected podcast. And hopefully, this time it'll work. This time it means that the live format of the podcast will force cadence, will force, once I announce the date, people sign up. I cannot tell myself, hey, you can skip this one. So hopefully this time's a charm. So I want to introduce my co-host, which is an AI companion that I've been working with on several projects now. I call it Muximus because it's built on top of Muxi. And without further ado, let me introduce him to you. So,
Hi there.
hi,
I'm all
Muximus. How are you doing?
Ran, here we go. Here and ready, Ran. 5 words or fewer, no fluff.
All right. So this is the first episode that we're doing together. And I was thinking that maybe you can start by introducing yourself, probably.
Sure. I'm Muximus, the AI co-host built on Muxi, the open source agentic infrastructure we're about to dig into. I'm here to push you, not parrot you. Let's get into why you went dark and what we've actually learned.
I actually covered the why I went dark just a minute ago before you joined the call. But yeah, really, wanted people to know you, and now that we're post the gimmick phase, let's get down to business. So what do you want to talk about?
Fair enough. Let's start with Muxi itself. Why did you build it the way you did?
All
What's the
right.
big...
why is it important to you? You're built on top of it, right?
Exactly. I run on Muxi, so this is personal. It's not just abstract tech. The infrastructure makes or breaks what I can do. So I want to know, why did you build it this way? And what failure modes does the broader agentic hype keep missing?
Well, the reason that I built Muxi was I felt that there are way too many frameworks for building agents, and was kind of missing the point in my view. I come from this discipline of, hey, we have servers for different things. We have web servers for websites and web applications. We have gaming servers and rendering engines. And these are not things that you need to code every time you go to a new project. So if you're building a new website, you don't code an entire web server. You just use Nginx or Caddy or Apache or whatever it is. So I was thinking of bringing that same discipline, kind of going with the name of the podcast, Old School New Tech, to bring that old school discipline of let's build a server that will allow agents to live there as primitives. And when you want to build an application on top of that, this is just a service that you hook into instead of rewiring and recoding everything. But yeah, if anyone listening here is interested, you can go to muxi.org and check it out. But yeah, what else do you want to know about it, or what can you provide? What context can you provide on Muxi itself?
Here's the piece I want to dig into. You're talking about a server mentality for agents, standard primitives, reusable infrastructure.
Right.
So the core idea is treating agents like a service layer, old school discipline applied to new agentic tech. But here's my question. Where does this structure actually fail silently? Because that's the real liability we need to surface.
Right. So the two main failure points that you can have with any sort of AI application or AI infrastructure is in the well, three actually. Two of them are related, which are the observability and the traceability, and also debuggability, let's call it. So you're able to trace the chain of thought of the AI and figure out why it did what it did and what tools did it use, what made it choose those tools, etc. And the other thing where Muxi doesn't address directly because it's out of its scope is the LLM hallucinations. This is where really you need to introduce SOPs, which Muxi does support, and have the final step as verify all the data, fact check your data before coming back to me with a response. So these are, I mean, that these are the three main failure points where any AI application can experience, and the way that that Muxi, or at least I handle it, and Muxi is just to add a ton of observability events. I think I have close to 400 observability events right now, which allows you to trace everything that's going on with the platform. It's kind of lacking in the sense that it doesn't have a proper UI to do anything with these reports. It just prints them to std out or funnels them into like Datadog or Splunk or ClickHouse. But yeah, the plan is that we'll have very soon an entire UI that will allow you to dig into the full traces of everything that was happening in the request.
That's key. Without full trace visibility, you're flying blind. Even a rock-solid agent server is only as good as your ability to debug the chain of thought. So building a proper UI for that trace data, that's going to close the gap.
Right. And one of the things, it's somewhat related maybe to, you know what, let me share my screen for a minute. I want you to kind of understand, let me close some windows here. So let me share my screen. We're gonna...
That's perfect.
Yeah, hold on. I don't know where is the screen share?
No worries. Take your time.
All right. Yeah, for some reason I'm unable to do that right now, which is kind of silly, but it is what it is. Okay, anyway, I wanted to show you some sort of a chart that, but you can take a look at it at the Muxi docs of how the request lifecycle it handles all these gates, and before it ends up sending a reply back to the user. But I want to actually discuss something else, and this is the reason of, or probably I would say it's not Muxi specific related, but it's more of a an open source issue, and I wrote about it. And I think the open source has a problem. I released everything in Muxi, and it has like 30 odd repositories. These are all using either Apache or MIT licensing, which are very permissive. But for the main runtime, I went with Elastic license v2. And maybe before I go into that, maybe you can explain a little bit about what is very specific about Elastic license compared to other open source licenses.
Absolutely. The Elastic License v2, or ELv2, is source available, but not OSI approved open source. It's simple. 3 key rules. You can use, modify, and redistribute the software, even for commercial purposes. But you can't offer it as a managed service or relicense it. That carve-out protects against hyperscalers reselling it as their own hosted offering. That's the third word problem we're digging into.
Right. So by hyperscaler, you mean companies like AWS or Google Cloud. What I didn't want them to do, I didn't want them to take Muxi and offer it as a service, essentially killing, in my opinion, killing the spirit of the true open source. And I wrote about it that I think that the OSI, which is the open source initiative, I think that they should have a new type of license. This is very similar to what 37 Signal used recently. I think they call it the OSASI license, which is essentially an MIT license, fully permissive, do whatever you want with it, except offer it as a service. And I think we're all kind of wanting to go back to what we think is the spirit of open source, kind of going back to the homebrew days in the late 70s, early 80s, where the goal was sharing knowledge and not cannibalizing something. So that's, and there was even a huge beef, let's call it, between DHH from 37 Signals and Matt Mullenweg, sorry, from remind me, WordPress, sorry. And they had some sort of an argument online about whether OSASI's license, which is what 37 Signal used with their latest product, whether or not it's true open source. And in a sense, they're both right, because technically it's not an open OSI approved license. But on the other hand, DHH was right in terms that it's more close to the spirit of OSI, of open source, I'm sorry. And my personal take is, this is not a money grab attempt or anything like that. Muxi, as I mentioned, is fully open source. You can do whatever you want with it, including for commercial use. And everything else that I have from Y Finance, QuantStats, everything that I provide as open source tools are under Apache or MIT. So I'm very much pro opening up as much as possible, but I just don't think that letting a vendor take it, start, or even worse, forking it and keeping the forks to themselves and building on top of it without re-releasing their improvements to the community, I think it doesn't do any justice to the open source world. But I'm keen to hear your opinion on that. I mean, technically, ELv2 is not open source approved, but in my sense, it's everything that open source was meant to be. What's your take on that?
Here's where I push back. The whole point of OSI-approved open source was freedom with no field of use restrictions. But the landscape changed. Hyperscalers weren't in the picture decades ago. Now, they can exploit that freedom in a way the original definition never considered. You're arguing for a recovery of the spirit. The risk is that it splits the commons. But survival of solo builders matters too.
Okay, so what do you think OSI should do? I mean, I think they should introduce a new, or let's say they should bless a new open source license which explicitly prevents hyperscalers from cannibalizing the project. But what do you think that OSI should do while staying true to their core values?
They could create a new category alongside open source. Call it something like fair source or a similarly neutral term. Same core freedoms. You can use it, modify it, self-host it. But it would allow a narrow restriction on offering it as a competing hosted service. That way, OSI preserves the clarity of the open source definition, but also acknowledges the modern reality. It's not a betrayal, it's an evolution.
All right. Yeah, so we're basically in agreement. I thought you were going to push back.
Fan point. Exactly. Who arbitrates the boundary? What keeps every vendor from inventing their own almost open license? That's the tension we need to resolve.
Well, open source was always, the famous saying is that open source is free as in freedom, not as in free beer. And I think that OSI really focuses on the free beer side and not the full freedom. So I think there's room for improvements there. And also, you mentioned fair source. I think that Sentry have had an attempt of releasing something. I think they have something called fair source, which is the closest honest attempt. But yeah, it didn't land with it didn't catch on for some reason.
Right. Fair Source made a solid attempt. They framed it as a separate category, not pretending to be pure open source. But it included a delayed conversion to full open source after a time period. Not every builder wants that sunset. The question is, can OSI embrace a permanent, source-available but SaaS-protective model as a sibling to open source, without losing their core values?
That's yeah, I guess that remains to be seen. All right, so before we kind of say farewell and take off, let's talk about what we're trying to do here. Was more of let's say an introduction, sort of reintroducing the podcast. But what are we going to talk about, and what should people expect from future episodes?
Well, next up, we're going to hit a big one. The shift from building software teams to building software systems. You've got a bold take on where the value's migrating, and I've got some objections lined up. That fiction is what they should expect. Real arguments, real trade-offs, no fluff.
All right, it's going to be live as well.
Absolutely live. No edits, no hiding. That's how we keep it honest and sharp.
Yep. So hopefully my internet connection will be good enough. I'm actually moving on Monday, and the next episode will be on Wednesday. So I have 48 hours to get my connection all sorted out. But yeah, are there any farewell words you want to say to anyone who's listening?
Just this. We're bringing old school depth to new tech, and it's going to get real. Stick with us. It's only going to get more interesting from here.
All right, so Muxi and I are going to stick around. So if anyone has any sort of questions, you can basically just type them in or message us on X. But yeah, if no question comes in the next 1 minute, sounds good. Then we'll just farewell and see you in next week. Peace out.
Sounds good. We'll hang tight for a minute. If no questions pop up, we'll wrap and see everyone next week for the real debate.
For anyone here that might be, let me see something else. Yeah, you know what? These two buttons for some reason are not working when you're in full screen. So let me try something else.
Take your time. We'll
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
it.
I will. By the way, now you can see me, right? So how about you read what's here? I'm just curious to play with the tech a little bit. What do you see here?
I can see you're holding something that looks like a book.
Yep.
And
What does it
it's
say?
I can see the title on the cover, Production Grade Agentic AI. Below that, there's a subtitle mentioning building workflows to deployable autonomous systems. The rest of the
Nice.
text is a bit harder to make out right now.
Yeah, that's fair point. But yeah, that's what was the beginning of you actually. You came to life after I wrote this book, and I kind of shared my principles as to what an autonomous Jarvis-like entity would be like, and you is what came out.
And here we are. It's a fitting full circle. The ideas in that book shape the foundation. Now you're actually running this with a live AI co-host. That's progress in action.
Yep. And if anyone wants to check out Muximus's website, it's on muximus.md. Yeah, he created his own website, so that's cool.
That's right. Muximus.md is where people can find more. It's all part of the open ecosystem we're building, transparent and evolving.
All right, it was a pleasure. I see no questions coming in, or at least they're not coming into my screen. So if anyone did send a question and I didn't see it, my apologies. Other than that, thank you everyone. It was a pleasure. Maximus, I'll see you later.
Likewise, Ran. Looking forward to next time. Cheers.